delivering a session in Mia, and then after that something went wrong. And thank you someone for helping me to record. Nice. So right now in this session, before we start, let's answer some questions. So I'm not sure when you stop hearing me, but what I'm trying to say is that I will ask you a multiple questions. You don't have to answer in each question. So what I will do is that I will give you some thinking time for questions, and then after that you can just share overall. So first question is, right now, imagine that you're gonna host your first MC planning, okay? So imagine that you are like, the next minute, you're gonna deliver the first planning. So before you start, I just want you to ask yourself, how do you want your MC plan to look like? So I will give you some time to think, and then I will go to the next question, okay? How do you want your MC plan to look like? And then the next question is, what would be the planning process and flow for your MC planning? What would be the planning process and the flow for your MC planning? And then the next question is, what preparation that you need before the planning starts? What preparation that you need your team to do before the planning starts, based on the flow that you design? And the last question is that since you're planning the agenda, the flow, or the preparation, what do you think that would be the challenges that you foresee to happen before the planning and also during the planning? Okay, so I just want to know, like, when you go through this question, what is the thought process that comes to your mind? So any one of you want to share, you can either type or you can unmute yourself. But I want to know, like, what is the thought process that go through when you are answering this question? You don't have to answer question per question, but you can tell the general thing that is in your mind. Okay? So any one of you want to share?
I can go first. I guess, Shami, can you hear? Okay. Anyways, I guess when I answer these questions, I'm more confused. Yeah, I am seeking clarity in terms of how it will look like and what it's supposed to be, because I was going through different kind of frameworks in terms of planning, externally as well as internally, used in ISEC like about 2 weeks ago. And yeah, I don't think I did not find anything fit to the current situation of the pandemic, if it in terms of the goals or the KPIs or whatever we do generally. So everything kind of needs have a different key progress indicator and also an MOS for the team, at least for the 6 coming months of the time period, and how we'll be going forward with that. But then I guess the previous session with Ella brought some clarity in terms of how and what I was discussing the same with Varun. But the point is how we can make sure that this all, because I guess MC is one of the mature leadership of an entity when it goes to the LCs and to the members and to the smaller team leader groups where they plan their probably say a quarter or something. How are they going to look at it? And that is something which I think that we should solve in MC planning, so that it's more clear for our people to see what is the kind of future we're looking for and what are the pillars we're going to base the planning on.
Okay, thank you, Karan, for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. Any one more person want to share? Like, what is in your mind, or you can type it down.
Yeah, I also share. So
Yes.
I think when it comes to MC planning, like most of the MCVPs will ask about like the timeline, because like the timelines will change. So according to that, the analysis and all will need to do. So I think before going to the planning as MCPs, we should have a proper idea about how the timeline will shift, and maybe the preparation times. Maybe talk to other IR partners or the people we are going to do the exchanges and have a clear idea on timeline. So I think that's the most challenging thing that we will face as MCPs when they ask about timeline and how we need to prepare.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you. So, so basically, thank you so much, Karen and Shishit, for sharing. So the reason why I'm asking this question is that a lot of times, when we do planning, a lot of you already get used to the idea. Probably AI gives you an agenda, a framework, a tool, or even a preparation list. But what we realize is that a lot of times, this plan will not be good if you yourself do not go through this question. That this should be a guiding question. That the first step of a planning process that you should ask myself for yourself, that what is the thing that you actually need, so that you can actually make sure that what is the thing that you're trying to achieve in the planning process, so that when you guide your people, you have a direction. Because the framework works in any kind of direction. But as MCP, if you do not have a direction, when you guide your people with a question, if you do not know, you will just refer whatever the booklet say or the framework say, then it will not come out with something that really fits your reality. And then in the end, you will give input like, for example, oh, this plan is very general, like there's no specific details that it fits to my entity. No. So the thing is that it's really important for you to go through this process so that you actually have this mind before you come up with any part of the flow, agenda, preparation. And thank you, Ima, for also sharing about the preparation is external and internal analysis, recovery plan, stakeholder understanding, and budget. Yes. So we'll talk about this more later. So just to let you know that every year we do our planning in the same way. Like, to be honest, it's not that hard to plan if every year we have the same context, right? For example, you plan for your product goal, you plan for, and then you break down into monthly basis, and then you break down with your IR, and after that you align with your finance for the goal, how much money you can get. That's the same old routine. And because most of you are MCVP, you probably have a lot of experience on how to do MC planning. However, this year, we can't see planning as the same old routine. You can't expect that you have the same routine as in you're going to plan for that goal again, and then you're going to plan for another IR goal again, as if like there's no coronavirus happen. So, and the thing is that why is it very different? It's because we do not know how the future will be. And the future looks very different for different entities. There are some entities seems that the coronavirus is actually like you're actually recovering. Some entity, it seems like it's just the beginning. So it's really hard for me to tell you that, hey, there's one set of the thing and just follow it, because different timeline or different spread of coronavirus will create different remedies. And a lot of times, if you learn from this mistake of right now when the coronavirus hit us, we are always in the stage of being reactive. We are like, okay, what is the thing we need to do now? What is the thing I need to come up with the money now? But then we are unable to come up with the balance of how can I actually be proactive to be prepared for whatever future scenario that might happen. At the same time, also balance with the fact that I also have the flexibility to be reactive on the situation. So I think these are the two things that we need to make sure that your planning actually are able you to be reactive if certain unexpected things happen. At the same time, you can also be proactive to plan everything ahead. So that would be this whole process would be. So in this session, we will do 4 things. The first one is that I will introduce you the overall framework. So I will let you know what is the thing that the whole thought process and also the flow, the MC planning flow that AI designed. And the second thing is that we also will let you know what is the diagnosis tool and our recommendations for you. And then also what is the recovery planning and what is the scenario planning. So let's introduce about the MC planning framework as a whole, the bigger picture of it. So the first big picture is that every time when you start with a planning, you need to do analysis. So you need to analyze your customer, your member, your partner, whether it's a qualitative analysis or quantitative analysis. Qualitative analysis is a lot about subjective assessment, where you have interview, you have conversations, where you understand what they actually mean through the data that you collect, which is like NPS score or whatever sign-up data that you actually come up with that you can actually understand about the customer. And of course, if you need more things, you can actually do any other analysis that can help you, like LC analysis and so on. So, but then we also have something called diagnosis tool and our recommendation. So what is diagnosis tool and what is our recommendation? So what happened is that we have a bunch of data that you submit to us in SOGA. We have your member data, we have your finance data, we have your TM data. From this data, what we take from this data is that we come up with a dashboard. And in this dashboard, we come up with how would your data would look like if you have different scenarios. If you can do realization in September, December, and February, how would it look like? And then from there, you can actually see what would be our recommendation for you if you can do realization in different time frames. So that's the resources that we come up with you, which is one dashboard that encompasses the whole data for people, finance, partner operations. Okay. And then after that, once you have data, you have all the preparation, you understand the internal and external context. The second thing you need to do is that you need to plan a plan to recover your entity, because most of us are actually facing certain kind of losses. Either you face members engagement issues, or you face financial issues, or you face that your product are not able to penetrating into the market. So first thing is that when we come up with a recovery planning, we have scenario planning. So we will plan different scenarios that how would the future will look like based on your entity context. And then after that, we will come up with a recovery plan for each scenario. Once you have that, you will do a goal setting. You decide a goal based on the scenario that you're in, that how much likely you can achieve a certain amount of a change based on the different scenario that you will be in, and which are the scenarios that's most likely to happen, and that will be your first goal for your product, and also a BD goal for your product, and also a BD goal. And the last one will be implementation practices. How can you make sure that your team, you know how to manage your team to have a good synergy network management plan, budget, so you have a good system that allow your team to implement the strategy that you come up with in the recovery plan. So this will be the fourth floor. And in each of the sessions, if you can see, is that before RPM, we already tell you about the qualitative analysis output. In this MC planning, we will talk to you about the analysis, which is about the RO recommendation and also diagnosis tool. It will be very quick. We will not go in detail. And then after that, we'll cover the recovery planning in this space. And then later on in the next space, it will be goal setting. And then lastly, it will be MC planning 3 sessions in tomorrow's morning space. Most of these sessions are designed in a way to build your capacity. What does it mean? It means that you will not expect to have a lot of framework or tool from it, but then you also have a lot of resources from the past term, and also you can Google it yourself. So that's the idea of it. You understand the logic so that you can be resourceful to figure out the solution that fits your entity the best. What we care the most is about the output that you're gonna drive from this process, okay? So this is the thing that we'll cover. I already go through it, so I'm not gonna go through it again. So right now, what I need your help is that I need you to get into a group of 4. And I already assigned a group for you. And you will see that there's regional managers here, which there will be your support specialty, with my support specialty. That if you're confused, they will be the one who actually guide you through the process. So right now, one thing you need to do is that do not leave the Zoom. So you need to keep your Zoom call and you need to keep your Google Meet open at the same time. Is that clear? Because along the process, I will brief you with something and then you need to discuss with the group, and then I will brief you something and you need to discuss with the group. So this is gonna be your group. So please join the link at the bottom. You can see the AIES.EC/AP group 1. So this is the link. Yes, and thank you, Isuru, for that. Then you can just copy and paste there. Can you enter your group right now? I will give you 2 minutes time to do that. Once you're done, just give me a once you're done like calling and also the RM, just tell us that if your group has everybody in it. Wow, that's fast. Thank you. Good job, group 1. What about group, the rest of the group? Oh, group 1 efficient leh. Group 3 left Mongolia. Group 5 done. Group 4 all here. Amazing. What about group 2? Is group 2 done? Prayok? Done. Okay, nice, amazing. So is Mongolia in group 3 already, Gina?
Yes, Charmaine.
Yes, thank you. This is very efficient. I'm so proud of you, okay? The thing is that I do the same meeting with Mia. It gives me a bit of anxiety. Anyway, that's why I love you all. You're the region that I love. That's why I'm from AP. Anyway, so now these are going to be your team members. So what we're going to do is that we're going to have a planning simulation. So imagine that these people are your MC team, okay? Yay! And then some people got lucky. You have a bit more MC member, but in this, it's not a competition about how many MC member you get. Okay. So what it's gonna do is that based on the group that you have, I want you to choose one entity from your entity. So what it means is that, for example, if you're group one, pick one entity out of this entity. Don't create a new entity that out of nowhere. Okay. And make sure that the entity that you pick already done qualitative analysis output. Okay. Because later on you will have a space where you need to read the output. So once you're done, can you just you can just type down in the group to let me know that. Oh, okay. I hear you meanwhile hearing the group talking. Oh, nice. Okay, people come down. You are very excited with one another, like oh, like that. But it's okay. Let me speak first. So right now, once you pick your group one, group two, group three, group four, just make sure that the person put your name in the chat so I can know that which entity are being selected to be the entity. Okay. So once you're done, just put it in the group chat. Thank you. So I will give you like 2 minutes time to do it. It will be fast lah. Just simply pick someone. It doesn't matter one. It's not like it's not a competition. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. If you're worried about your internet stability, you can close your camera in this Zoom call. I'm okay with that. Okay. I have 100% trust that you are present. So if you want to say so, you can open the Zoom call in your Google Meet. If it's sorry, the Google Meet camera if you want.
Okay, Xiaomei, thank you.
Thank you, Gina. As if you are the session, you're the delegate. Okay, is group one done? Dun, 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 dun. Who is the entity?
Australia.
Fuck you, me. Oh, sorry. Okay, I will not talk, Phoebe. Okay, so we have one more group, I think. Okay, group five. Okay, so we have group one Australia, group two is group one Australia, group two is Japan, group three is Indonesia, group four is Vietnam, and group five is Sri Lanka. Nice people. So are you excited to have your first MC planning? So the good thing is that all of you haven't. Okay, so if you are talking in your Google Meet, this is the time where you listen to me, okay? So you're like, shut up.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, so right now, unfortunately, coronavirus has affected your entity operation. Oh, membership engagement. Oh, cash flow. Oh. So now all of you need to work on designing a plan that allow your entity to recover as soon as possible. So you're on a mission, okay? You are all MC international except one MC Lanka. Okay. So first thing you need to do is that go to this link and duplicate one copy per group right here, right now. Okay, let's see. The fastest group, you have nothing, but you can just tell me in the chat and I would really appreciate you. Thank you. Go and share it across the team. Okay, so the two that you duplicate, you're done? Done. Nice. Good 3, good 2, done. How about 1 and 4 and 5? Group 1 done, good job. 4 done, and group 5. Group 5 have 5 people, but it always take a little longer. Come on, people, group 5, come on. Don't be that entity that's slow. Okay, group 5. So I will explain first. So the framework that you design. So are you? I cannot know. I do not know if you're listening right now, but not when I'm talking. So you just listen, okay? So the spreadsheet that you just create is basically the recurrent plan framework. So we will actually this is actually the tool that you're gonna use in the replanning process. So recurrent plan process, and then we have a guidebook to actually guide you on it. So that's just an expectation setting for you about the tool. So Isuru, is it done? Because I don't see you mentioned is group 5 done?
Give me a
Anyone
minute.
from group 5? Okay. So I will just go ahead first. So in this simulation,
We are done. Go for that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so in this simulation, we'll cover 2 things. So first thing that we're gonna try is that we'll do a scenario planning, and then second thing we'll do is that we'll do a recovery planning. Expectation setting for you. This simulation is not about coming up with the right answer. It's about for you to go through the process so that you will learn what is the thing that your MCVP will go through when they do planning, so that you can empathize their situation, so that you can design a planning preparation and a planning process that is better for your people. So in this process, I will give you very little time where I need you to put certain things that maybe it's not right, it's not validated, it's fine. But at least you will know that, okay, I cannot put something that is not validated because it will affect the output. So that's the key intention, okay? So don't start too long or argue certain point too long, because the point is not to making sure that the output is really good, because that's what you will do in your own real MC planning. So first thing is that when we want to start to plan a scenario, you need to first asking yourself a question, is that what are the decisions I'm trying to make right now? What is the thing that I'm trying to solve in the recovery plan? So in this case, before you set a scenario, it's important to have a focus issue. What is the thing that you want to solve? So in this case, what I think is that when you come up with the recovery plan, your focus issue would be, how would your entity recover by the term of 2021? What is the thing that would your entity need to recover by the term of 2021? So that's a focus question, okay? So before we start with anything, like you said before, you need to make sure that you have a good preparation so that people actually know the context. Well, I will give you 5-minute time. You can distribute across the group, which you will go to this link called AIES.EC/entity diagnosis, and then you will also read the qualitative analysis output. So what you will do is that the MCP from entity, you can share your qualitative analysis output link to the group, and then also we will all go to AIES.EC/entity diagnosis. So I will show you how this tool is gonna look like, okay? If you go to this side, yeah. So when you go to this tool, obviously the internet, you will see something like this. You will see a dashboard that has entity name and different scenarios. So what you're gonna do is that you can make a copy of this whole thing, okay? Why? It's because a lot of people clicking on it and then the information will change. So my suggestion is that you can just make a copy of this and then you can just already later on, you can change it. So you can see that Australia is here, and then you can see there are 3 scenarios. And each scenario, it will change the data from your people, finance, operation, and partnership. And it will reflect here, and this is our recommendation, and this you lost me.
Yeah,
Internet
we lost
probably
you.
just got back.
Yeah, you lost you for a long time.
Well, really? Do you lost me? Do you see this one when you lost me? The diagnosis tool?
Yeah, you are start talking about it and then we lost.
Okay, cool. So what I'm saying is that what you need to do is to make a copy on it, because later on when people keep changing the entity, it will affect your data. But then you can change the scenario. Once you change the scenario, the data will change. if you want to know more about like where does we come up with this data, later on I will show you a tutorial link where you can get to know more now. But then for now, just check on this tool and then read the information there with your team to understand the entity that you just picked. Okay, so this is part of the, and then also look into what is our recommendation for the state of the entity. Is that clear? Are you all clear? Can you hear me? Okay. So right now you go back to your, yes.
So if our entity is Indonesia, so click Indonesia and then copy, right? Or just copy and then
No.
Indonesia. Okay. No, I
Copy
get it.
on the whole. You need to copy the whole spreadsheet because the
Okay.
data is generated from one another, and then you can just select again in Indonesia. You don't have to click Indonesia to copy because you copy the whole set data together with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just copy the whole set, and then after you can check it with your team. Cool. So right now I will give you 5 minutes time, and then you can read through the qualitative analysis output and also the diagnostic tool that is shown here. So your 5 minutes will start now. You have 30 seconds left. Okay, time's up, people. So I know that probably some of you have some insights you don't, so it's okay. Later on, I will give you some space to discuss on what is the insight that you get from this bidding process. Okay. So can you all back on the Zoom screen again? If you're done, you can just give me a thumbs up so that I can see.
What, Shumei, can you say again?
Yes, what I'm saying is that right now it's fine that if you manage to read all, it's okay. You probably have some insight about the entity. So if so everybody just go back on the Zoom call right now. And if you're done, just give me a thumbs up so that I know that you're like literally like alive with me. Okay, nice. I see Kara do it. So the right. Okay, I see Juan use the thumbs up. Okay, so I think everybody's here. Cool. Don't cancel the Google meeting, okay? The Google meeting is gonna be there forever, okay? Until some point, I will ask you to cancel, then you cancel. Cool, thank you for asking. So the next thing we're gonna do is that I just will let you know that something that you go through this now is called diagnosis tool. So like I mentioned before, is that diagnosis tool is a tool that with all of the AI, remember, like we come up with the data, with your SOGA data, and then we do projections. Yeah, okay. Let me help to mute everyone. Okay.
No, they need to mute from the Google Meet.
Done.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Nice. Amazing, people. So just like Zoom, if you hear anything that you cannot hear me or some technical issue, just voice out in the group chat. So for the diagnosis tool is that basically it's a tool that AI using the SOGA data and the data that we have to come up with the projections on how it will look like in different scenarios based on the operation scenario that we recommend to you. However, we do understand that different entities have different states of recovery or the lockdown, the country policy. So sometimes not everybody can stick to the whole exactly same date of the scenario. But this allows you to foresee that if in the next 3 months, next 6 months, how would your member state, how would your financial state will look like? So if you want to know more about this, through this tutorial, it has video, it has some material that allows you to actually understand the whole tool itself. This is one of the things that you should do when you are preparing for your MC planning. So right now, let's start with step 1, okay? Part 1. So for part 1 is that scenario planning. We're going to do scenario planning. So what is scenario planning? Scenario planning is that to identify a specific set of uncertainty. What is the reality going to face in the future? So because we do not know what will happen, so what the best that we can do is that we can project what are the different variations of the future, and then you have a plan to different variation of future. So if anything changed from future A to future B, you already have a plan. What you need to do is that you just need to switch the implementation, then you can actually achieve the goal that you set or whatever plan that you have. So let's start with coming out with the scenario planning. Wait, let me do a better present because I can see the browser. So there are a lot of steps of scenario planning. This is the bigger picture of that, but later on, I will have activity to guide you through the process. So don't worry about it, okay? So when you actually start with scenario planning, the first thing is to identify what is your focus issue, which is the focal issue. Just now in the beginning, I was saying that the focus issue that we want to solve is that how can we make sure that your entity can recover by the time of 2021? So the first step of coming up with a scenario is to decide what are the decisions that you want to make. From there, you look into what are the factors that would actually affect the decision you're going to make, which means that if I want to make sure that my entity can recover, what would be the factor that would affect this factor of the recovery? How fast I can implement a strategy of recovery, and also by when I can actually recover. There should be some factor that will actually influence your decision. And after that, based on this factor, choose 2 factors that's actually most uncertain and has the highest impact. Because these factors are the 2 factors that it can frame your future in certain way that actually most realistic that would happen. So I will tell you more about that, and then from there you will generate 4 different scenarios, and then you will create the scenario, and then you identify what is the implication of each scenario on your entity, And then what is the indicator for you to know that when you are at scenario A and when you are heading towards scenario B? And lastly, what would be the prioritized scenario? So right now, when you hear me saying, you're probably like, okay, what the fuck Sherman is saying? Okay, so it's okay that you do not understand. That's why we have the activity, okay? So first thing you're gonna do is that right now, I will give you working time, but before you start working with your team, identify what are the factors that will influence the speed and the strategy of the entity needs to recover. So based on the entity that you read for the qualitative analysis report and also for the diagnosis tool, and so based on the MCP current perspective, MCP elect of the entity perspective, what do you think that would be the factor that will influence this entity on how fast they can recover and what are the strategies this entity needs to recover? So I will give you some example, okay? First is that there are two types of factors. One is external factor and one is internal factor. External factor could be something that's beyond the control or it could be something that we interact with. So for example, NGO, it could be, so sometimes partner could be your both internal factor and external factor, but it doesn't matter. The matter is we need to identify the factor that thinking from internal perspective and external perspective sometimes helps you to generate better idea. So external perspective can be something like exchange rate or economic or legislation or technology advancement or security or safety, things like that. Okay. For internal, it will be mostly something like member experience, finance, or your product experience, SOP, or your organization purpose and vision or culture. This could be something internal. External could be something more like this. So this is the example. Okay. So right now, what you're going to do is that based on the entity that you choose and based on the report that you read just now, discuss with the people to identify on, I will give you a bit more time. I will give you 5 minutes to discuss what will be the factor actually influence the speed and the strategy of the entity. So this is a space that you're going to use the recovery tool. So I will show you the recovery worksheet. No, this is not the one. Yeah. So you can see that there's a tab called step 1 to 3. So basically, it's designed according to the step of the scenario. So right now, what you can see is that you have this internal factor and external factor, okay, or trend. So you can just put it here. So this is the first step. Discuss with the team and then just put it here, whatever factor that you think can be impact. So this is the step that you need to do, and I will give you 5 minutes. You don't have to do the second part first. So focusing on this part. Is that clear? And then if you are confused, you can check on the example. This is example, okay? There's a tab called example that you can check on it. So I see some questions. You can understand, use microphone instead of outside speaker people. What do you mean? I cannot use microphone because my microphone is broken. So I do not know. And for
Oh,
back,
no, nothing.
okay, for back, what do you mean that you can only understand how of the thing that I'm saying? You want, so for the, who is your Fasi, the tribe Fasi for Mongolia?
Gina.
Yeah, do you understand? Can you explain to him later in the group discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, so Gina will tend to you. Okay, cool. I do not know how to fix it. I'm really sorry because something is wrong with my laptop. Okay, so I will see how can I fix it. But later on, right now, I will give you 5 minutes time for you to discuss, and then I will come back, and then 5 minutes you can just put on what are the internal and external factors. Are the step only for one focal issue? Yes. So basically, your whole step will be revolving on one issue that you want to solve, and in this case, is basically how your entity can recover. Factors example page. Yeah, there is one. Can you show us the internet external? So it's basically next step. It's called example step 1 to 3. That's the example. Is it good? So I will give you 5 minutes for the time. Okay, 5 minutes will start now.
You have 1 minute left. And then if you're done, it would be good you can share your spreadsheet in the group chat. Okay, so I see some of group 1 is already done, so nice. So are the rest of the group already done? Okay, 5. So it's fine. The thing is that if you're not done yet, it's okay. I'm not expecting it to be done, but if you have some discussions, like some factor, that should be good. Okay, so let's start with some example, okay? So if you're not done, it's fine. It's totally fine. So just come back to the Zoom call right now and focus on the thing that I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give some feedback based on the factor that you come up with. It's okay that you are not done. It's fine. Okay. So I will give you a minute to mute yourself in your Google Meet, and then we can focus on the Zoom call. All right. So people listen, okay? So when you come up with a factor, one of the important thing is that make sure that your factor is neutral. For example, your factor is that you don't have a second source of revenue. So second source of revenue, it can be internal, but you need to think a bit more, which is, for example, ask yourself that, is it, this would be a consequences of a factor. What would be the factor would affect your secondary source of revenue? For example, your partner interest. That would actually affect whether you got the secondary source of revenue or not. Or your members' sales capacity. That would affect if you get the secondary source of revenue or not. Is that clear? So that's one of the example you can look on it. Though reserve, this could be something there's just basically financial reserve will be the factor. Because later on, when we do the metric, you will see what will happen if you have low reserve or high reserve. You understand what I mean? Or you can look into financial sustainability. And then for basically is that keep your factors neutral. Your factors as in factors, but not whether your factor is a good factor or a bad factor. So it's that if you're talking about your memberships, then your membership experience will be get factor on it, get affected on it. Or this is basically youth demand or interest, because later we will look into the scenario where what if people are actually interested, what if people are not interested. So keep your factors neutral. So that would be the general feedback that I have. And then for this is group 5. Yeah, okay, so you have some discussion. It's good, it's fine. Yeah. Cool. So like financial final decision, what would affect the partner final decision? Normally it would be economic development, or normally it would be the customer consumer trend. This would be a factor that will affect the partner. Is that clear with the explanations? Do anyone of you has any questions?
I think it's clear. We can go.
Okay, cool. So if it's cool for you, just put it clear. So that's one of the first steps for you to take note on. Okay, so right now, after you have your factor, if your factor is not done, it's okay. What you can do is that you can use the factor that I create for the example, okay? Because this is just a process. So we don't really have time to share, but what we're gonna do is that the next time you're gonna do is that based on the factor that you identified, you need to rank them. So there are two aspects you need to rank. One is the potential impact and the uncertainty. Why? Is because when there are so many things happen, which mean that your entity is existing in an ecosystem, in a community, right? And then there's a lot of things happening in your community. There's a lot of factor happening, whether it can be government policy, or it can be maybe the coronavirus spread, or it could be economic development, or it could be something that your membership that's very near to you, or your organization sustainability. From all these things that happen, you need to identify on which are the factor are the one can impact me the most, and also which are the one that's extremely uncertain. Because the thing is that, for example, membership, right? Membership can impact you a lot. But the thing is, the uncertainty is actually very low, because you actually kind of know what your member think if you just do a survey or you do an interview, which means that you actually can solve this problem fairly easily. You can find the solution fairly easily. But then you need to find the factor that is high impact and uncertain, because you do not know how much this thing, when it change your whole system, it change your strategy, it change the environment that you are in. When you do sales to the product or partner, it will got affected because of the uncertainty of this factor. Okay, is it clear? So for that, what you're gonna do is that go back to the factor that you have, and then you start to rank it. And then when you rank it, you will see, okay, this one, the 1 is the lowest, 5 is the highest, so uncertainty as well. And then once you rank it, you will see something that looks like this. So if you look at the example here, is when you rank on it, and then after that, you can see that in this, there's a graph right hand side. And then in the graph, you will see that there will be this corner where it means high uncertainty and high impact. So there's this category. And then what you need to do is that based on these 4 category, you need to choose 2 if you have. But if you only have 2, then this will be the 2. You can only pick 2 factors that moves high uncertainty and high impact. You can either choosing through prioritization, or you can consolidate. So for example, for my example is that what happened is that the one that is very high for me is economic development, customer interest, partner interest, and government control on movement, visa, and travel regulation. So what I did was, when I do this activity, I combine the customer interest and partner interest into the economic development, because I think that the economic development of, like, maybe the economy will do well or do badly will affect the customer interest and demand. Same with the partner interest and demand. That's how my logic works. But of course, for you, you can choose to prioritize or you can consolidate. So in the end, you should have 2 key factors only, which is the highest uncertainty with the highest potential impact. Okay, so is it clear? So we're gonna go for the next activity, which I will give you another 5 minutes again, and then you will rank it, and after that you can discuss it. And if you need more time, tell me, okay? So are you clear with these guidelines? You can just reply in the
Clear.
chat so I can. Okay, nice. So right now I will mute myself, and then you will go back to your group, your Google Meet discussion. Okay. Hi everyone, I will give you 3 more minutes, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so I checked with your core FASI and most of you are already done. So for the core FASI, just that you can always check your Telegram. So I'm going to communicate to you in Telegram so that you can tell me if you need more time. So the rest of the people, I'm not going to interrupt you when you're in a discussion because you're probably going to hear 2 sounds at the same time, okay? So this is how we can improve the conversation. So thank you, Connie. Okay, so the next thing is that I check on some of the spreadsheets and I would like to check on to give some feedback on what I think. Okay, so for group 4, so let's start with group 4. So make sure that you are back to the screen. Are you back to the screen? So give me a little smile on your face. So let me know if you're on the screen.
On back.
Okay, nice. The core FASI, when the core FASI is more excited than the delegates. Amazing. So for people. So basically what is happening is that, let's see group 4. So for group 4 is that, okay, product operations, the impact is 3, and then the uncertainty is 5, and then government regulation is 5, and then economic development is 5. Okay, in this case, the bold one should be the one that you prioritize. So if you see here, you can see that, okay, it's a bit tricky because economic development and also the product operation are in the stage where it could be the critical uncertainty. So this is a time that when you're in an MC planning with your team, you need to discuss to look into what is the one that is the most critical one, that is going to impact the entity the more in the more different variations. So basically from this, so you can pick 2 factors. So for this one, I just want to know from group 4, which are the 2 factors that you choose? Because I see you both 3, so I'm not sure which one are the final 2 that you agree on. Anyone from group 4 want to share? Go Phoebe. Okay, so Ni already appoint Phoebe. Phoebe, can you say something?
Hi. So I think for external currently we have 2. We haven't decided like which one is the one yet, because yeah, but we will choose it. Okay, maybe I would just say government control, like just to give like one for now.
Okay, cool. So cool. I think that will be it. So right now, I will along each activity, I will give back to each group so that we can save time. But you can see how the example look like. So once you identify the critical critical uncertainty, which are the 2 factors, the next thing you're gonna do is that you're gonna draw a matrix, okay? Because that 2 factors affects your scenario the most. So I will show you the example. So you can read the guideline here when you're actually working with before you prepare for MCD. So first, you need to find 2 metrics, okay? So it's gonna look like is that you have a matrix here, and then you're gonna have a matrix here. I'm not sure if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Is it changing to the scenario? Okay.
Yeah, now it changed.
Now it changed, right? Okay, cool. So basically, you can see that there's critical uncertainty 1 and critical uncertainty 2. Based on these factors, you actually decide on how the scenario will look like. So it will be low or high, low or high. Okay. So this look like a wrapping, like what the fuck, show me, tell some word that you can understand. So I will give you an example. So if you go back again, the example that you see that I create here is that there is something called this thing. So for this thing, it's a matrix, right? And you're Asian, you're supposed to be like, have some experience with matrix in your life some point. So first is that you put the 2 matrix, 2 factor that you choose. 1 here and 1 here. So I will wait for the screen to move again. Yes. So you will see 1 factor here below and 1 factor here above. Do you see? So it's like an x-axis and y-axis, your favorite graph sessions. So this is the example. So for example, I pick 2. 1 is government control on movement, visa, and travel regulation, and 1 is economic development. So when you are planning with your team, you need to discuss what does it mean low economic development. In my context, I think low economic development means recessions, okay? Which means that the economy is not doing well and people are not having a lot of money. High economic, which means that the economy is actually growing faster than what I expected. So people are actually able to still generate money. Like people get used to the coronavirus and they figure out the way to actually generate income. So government control or movement law is basically is that the government don't control. So basically you can go wherever you want. Or maybe there is some medium control. And then high is basically that it's like basically full lockdown, like quarantine, full lockdown, you cannot go anywhere, there's a curfew, it could be extreme. So along the way, when you discuss with your team, you realize that sometimes there will not be extreme. There will be some low and some is like a medium, like half control. So in that case, it's really up to you. So maybe you realize that there will be like a scenario E here. Or maybe you can just decide that the scenario D that most likely to happen will not be so strict, but it will be medium like that. So this is something that it's up to you and your team to discuss. So you are clear, right? Is it clear so far for you, the explanations? Yes, okay. So with this, the next thing, Xiaomei, is it okay to have both 2 factors from external output to internal? Yes, great questions. In the end of the day, when we choose the factor, we don't choose from the aspect that is it external or internal. You will choose from the factor that which internal or external factor has the highest impact and also has the highest uncertainty. Most likely, you normally will have the tendency to end up with 2 external factors is because external factor generally has higher uncertainty than internal factor. Is that clear? So that's an example. For the early indicator, it will be something that I'll explain later, okay? So right now what you're gonna do is that you're gonna do step 1. imagine that right now you are a news reporter. You need to create some dramatic headlines. So scenario A, fast forward to the beginning. We are resuming back to the pre-coronavirus time because the economy is high and then the government don't control about movement anymore. Scenario D, the greatest modern recession, the worst recession after World War II, things like that. So that it's very catchy and it's easy enough for you to understand that what does the scenario looks like. From there, what you can do is that you brainstorm the scenario, okay? So how are you going to brainstorm the scenario? Basically, you can think about what are the scenario will happen when you have high economy and also low control. So I will give you an example, okay? So right now, let's focusing on example B. It's called baby step recovery. So I give a very dramatic name called baby step recovery. So why? It's because actually during the coronavirus and also maybe the coronavirus is having more control, the economy is actually doing not that bad. So the economy is doing well. So what it means that is that most companies actually still encourage people to work from home, but they are still ban unnecessary travel for the highly affected area. So you are foreseeing in your entity, for example, if you're Isaac, if your contacts from Isaac in MOC and your contacts from Isaac in Indonesia are two different contacts. So you cannot say that there will be a set of it. So you really need to know what is happening in Isaac in like the country of Indonesia, how's happening with the coronavirus. That's the thing for you to remember, okay? So what I'm assuming is that in Malaysia, okay, I assume in Malaysia is that most companies will still encourage people to work from home, but then they will ban unnecessary travel, especially for the highly affected area. So people are actually willing to plan for long-term travel because the economy is doing not that bad. So people are like, okay, you know what? I can save some money. I don't want to travel now because it's not that safe yet, but I would likely to travel when the coronavirus situation is improving. And because the economy is doing not that bad, people are actually interested to invest on CSR project because of the whole coronavirus. Then the partner want to look into public health and well-being CSR or anything about technology advancement to improve like maybe kids technology literacy. And then also the growth technology of certain industry. It doesn't need to be technology, but can be certain industry is going really well because I do not know, like suddenly we figure out how to work on things. And then after that, but then the school and university are still restricted. So maybe what happened is that you realize that in certain area or state, they will have more serious coronavirus, then the lockdown is more strict. But then certain area is more light and then the people are more likely to travel. But maybe people don't travel a lot more across the different country. So this is the description that you will come up with. So right now, what you're gonna do is that figure out what would be the scenario headlines and also the description for each scenario. And the description for each scenario should be affected by whether is it high economic development, basically the high low of your factors. So is that clear? So I will give you 10 minutes time for you to work on it. So you're gonna start 10 minutes, and then if you can do the best to at least finish one scenario. If you cannot finish the rest of the scenario, what I would suggest is that you can actually divide yourself and then you can work in respective scenario because you have 4 people, you can work on each scenario. And then after that, you can gather and discuss again. So that can be more efficient. But then if you are delivering a MC planning, what you can do is that you can do a workshop where you can ask people to write on the sticky notes or whatever. And then after that, people can consolidate the idea. So it's really up to you on how you want to facilitate the space. So that's my suggestion. So right now I will give you 10 minutes and then you should start now. So let's go back to your Google Meet and discuss.
Hello. I think
People, you have 1 minute left. Okay, times is up. So is everyone okay?
I think we need 2 more minutes for clarification.
Okay. Okay, cool. So I will give you final 2 more minutes, and then after that, I will go ahead with the feedback. Thirty seconds left. Okay, time's up. So right now, let's continue with the process. It's okay if you don't have it all done. So right now, what I need from everyone is that I'm gonna go through some example because I saw some really good example, like interesting example. Okay, so if you can see, let's look into group 1, right? So group 1 choose economic development and okay, the speed of the technology development. Okay, cool. How fast the technology development will affect on it. So which entity you are looking, you are doing for group 1 again? I forget. Can you type?
Australia.
Australia. So it really depends, right? So for example, you need to look into whether this technology and development would impact it a lot or not, because the thing is that it could, in the sense of it will affect your customer demand, which means that how your customer purchase thing or how your customer used to but have certain consuming behavior. So this could impact on it. But the thing is that, for example, if you're in other entity, like for example MOC, there's already like technology advancement is something that is really fast, then it could be also a case for MOC as well. But it may not be a case for some other entity because maybe it's a different context, okay? So I saw a very good interesting example about this, the finance. Okay, so for example, you go to the finance one, it's from group 5. So group 5 has finance, and also uncertainty is basically government. So you just need to give me a bit of time because my internet is obviously not moving and I can see it from my screen. Wait, is it changed already? Ayo.
Yet.
Ayo. Okay. Yes. So for financial cash flow MOFR, what you can see is that one thing is that it's interesting because the thing is that you do not know how your finance would be because you do not know if you're going to have money. So it becomes very high uncertainty, and at the same time, the impact is really high. But it's also interesting. One interesting thing for you to think about is also your finance really will be influenced by how your customer and how would your success of your revenue stream strategy. So what it means is that even though the critical thing that you look into is basically impact and uncertainty, but then for finance, you actually have relatively higher influence over it, which means that it's not that uncertain if you can actually manage it through cost cutting and also designing a strategy that allows you to work successfully for the revenue stream. You understand what I mean? Because the thing is that if you use this metrics, it will only let you know that if you have a lot of money or you don't have a lot of money, but you already kind of know that you won't have a lot of money. That's a reality. You already know that your entity don't have a lot of money going on. So this scenario is good, just that it doesn't allow you to foresee more things that may happen. So if you have something else as a factor, it will allow you to see something more about like your customer behavior, or like maybe some other factors like that it could be some other thing that you actually have lesser influence and lesser control on it. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So only uncertain factor will be used for the yes. Why? Is because your certain factor will be something that is like you have control over, because right now you're trying to build a scenario with the thing that you would not foresee it to happen. That's why you're brainstorming with your team, because the thing that you will foresee it to happen, you already kind of will plan for it already. Like when you do your MC planning, it's easy for you to foresee. But having two factors that's highly impact and highly uncertain, it allows you to dream more and it allows you to see further because it's something that you never see before. So it may come out of your process that, oh, this is something that I actually overlooked that it might happen. So that's just some perspective, but there's no right or wrong. So it really depends on how you perceive it. Okay, cool. So that's an example so far. And I see that like, okay, so basically has 0 month can no longer survive. Yeah, so this become more like the implication of the situation. So right now, if I can take one of the example, maybe, so I will take, wait, let me take group 2. So group 2 is control and also buyer trend. So for buyer trend is that you can see that virtual is the new sexy, right? Like high buyer trend. So the trend is actually good. People want to buy something. So people are not willing to purchase or travel, but it's available. Okay, this is something, because of economic control. So people cannot, wait. You should be, okay, so people can travel, but then the high buyer trend. So for example, when you look at high buyer trend, if you can make the factors more easy to understand, because when you say about buyer trend high, it means that it's a good high or bad high. As in like good high buyer trend means that people are most likely to spend money, or like low. And what trend you're referring to? Like you're referring to people tendency to go for travel, like buyer trend towards traveling abroad is high or low, you know, like if you can specify a bit more, because the buyer trend is so broad that the buyer trend can be very different according to different people, or the likelihood of people to spend money. If it's high, then it means that people are willing to spend money, but and also traveling is available. You understand the example that I'm saying? Are you cool? So I just need to get a bit of like response.
Yeah, so what we were trying to do there is when we say buyer trend is high, it means that they are more skeptical towards spending money. And when we say buyer trends changes are low, it means that they're still freely willing to spend money.
Okay, cool. Yes. So for example, you see Prayut Mali put purchase power and willingness to spend. If you put that sentence, it's easier for your team to visualize. It's easier for people to brainstorm. Because this term like this, when people from external, when they understand it, or even when regional office want to give feedback, it's very easily misunderstood. So it's also make sure that your factors is also easier for people to understand as well. So that's a feedback that I can give for you. So if you want to like basically later on, I will give you some space for you to reflect on how this whole activity so that you can record down the learning. So right now, because we don't have a lot of time, so I would like to tell you about the two more things. Once you have the scenario, which means that the heading, the headline's name, and also the description, the next thing you're going to work on is basically the implications and also early indicator. So implication and early indicator is something that's really interesting, okay? So what it means is that once you have a scenario, what you need to do is that you need to answer a few questions that how these scenario impact you. And these 4 questions are crucially important. One thing is that you need to ask yourself, what would actually happen to your exchange right now? Because your exchange is your biggest revenue stream. And by when you can actually officially start exchange operation. So it's important because in each scenario, you will have a situation where you can do exchange and you cannot do exchange. Because if you are assuming that in scenario A, I can do exchange in December 2020, which means that before December 2020, you cannot do exchange. Then, which means that you need to have a strategy to survive for your revenue stream before December 2020. But after December 2020, then you can do exchange. So it's important to specify in each scenario when is the right time for you to start doing exchange again. And then also based on the timeline, how does it impact your financial reserve? So if you're in scenario B, which you can only do exchange in January 2021, how much reserve by that time you will have? And how many fixed costs you actually need to have to actually survive your MC, okay? And then also what would happen to your membership customer IR, like what would be the impact on it? Would your IR be actually interested still with, if your IR partner or plan to actually have realization in September, but based on your context, you think that you can only have realization in November, in January maybe, then which means that you need to align with your IR partner. So this is something that for you to look into. And also what would happen to the external environment, like also based on the scenario, maybe there are some customer tendency to pay certain thing has been lesser, then this will affect your exchange product. So these are the implications. So these implications should allow you to understand that how this scenario impact you. And then later on, when you come up with the recovery plan, your recovery plan should be something that address the implication, especially those negative implications or the positive opportunity that emerge from the implications, okay? From the scenario that you are having. And the next thing that we're gonna say is that what is early indicator? So early indicator is a really interesting thing because early indicator are the KPI or the KPI that differentiate one scenario from another. It allows you to understand right now, are you at scenario A or you're at scenario B? Or are you transiting from scenario A to scenario B or not? So for example, one of the situations right now that affects a lot of economies or government doing projection on how this whole coronavirus will be eased is basically the vaccine timeline or the possibility that would we have a vaccination or not. So these two key things could be your early indicator, which means that if you are projecting the vaccine to come by the end of term 2020, then people will only 100% feel safe to travel after 2020. Then which means that you can probably only have exchange in 2021. It could be an assumption, okay? So it's important for you to read news. So it could be something that you can see based on the behavior, like throughout the interview with your customer or any news that how are the consumer moving their behavior? Are the people starting to save more money or the people are actually planning to travel longer term? So it depends on the behavior, and the behavior will tell you a lot of information differently. And then the second thing is that media sources. So what are the news are saying about the coronavirus? Is it the coronavirus is increasing? Is there a second wave or third wave of coronavirus? Should you be take note on that? Because based on that, it will change. It will help you to understand that are you at scenario C or D? Because maybe you are saying that scenario D is that you can only do exchange in maybe January 2021, and then they are saying that there will be second wave of the coronavirus higher in January 2021, then you know that, okay, scenario D may not be the case anymore. It will be scenario B, which is I'm going to have coronavirus by when. So these are the examples that you can look into. And then on any researches about the coronavirus or anything about business, that it can help you to understand certain trend or like economy development trending, people can say that, okay, how long the recession will be and how does this recession will impact your organization. And also lastly, it will be politicians. So for example, whatever your politicians say actually means a lot. For example, if your country, your prime minister or president is extending the lockdown until the end of July, then of course it will impact you. Like you are expecting to have realization in probably in, or maybe if you extend your lockdown, for example, in September, and you're expecting to have realization in September, then you know that you cannot do that anymore and you have to move to certain scenario. So what you will understand is that maybe in your MC planning, you will plan a set of scenario, but the scenario will be keep changing. what it means is that maybe in the beginning you are seeing this, but once it changed, your early indicator is something that you can monitor to help you to understand that, do I need to make some changes in my scenario, or should I move my scenario from A to B? Because you will have recovery plan for each scenario. So when you implement, you're implementing the recovery plan for the scenario that you are thinking that is most likely to happen. So if right now you think that scenario B is more likely to happen, then you will switch your team implementation plan to scenario B. So that's a thing that we're going to work on right now. So with that, I'm going to give you a really fast 5 minutes to discuss on only one scenario on what do you think will be the implications and what are the early indicator. So for the implication, if you can, this will be the slide for the guiding question. So your core faci actually have the slide. You can ask them to share to you for these guiding questions, but you can use this guiding question to come up with implication, okay? So in the end, your output should look like something like this. So you can see that, like, okay, right now, for example, the greatest modern recessions. I will go back to the spreadsheet again for the example. Then you can see. Okay, I think you cannot see my screen, it's black.
You can see, but you're muted.
Oh, thank you. So so basically, if you can see that, is that the implications here is that, okay, because it's the recession, people do not want to go for a change. Maybe but then there's actually people interested in IT talent, but then your member actually do not want to continue in IT anymore because maybe most of your member are not from the rich family. Most of them actually want to support their family by finding a part-time job. Maybe if your entity has a lot of members that's generally richer, then it wouldn't be a problem because they are rich kid, you know, like their parents will figure out a way. And then this is when the exchange will look like and how much money you have to survive and how much money you need to survive. And then this could be the early indicator. So these are the example. So from this, your early indicator should be something it links to the factor that you are deciding as well. So from there, I will ask your team to brainstorm. So I will give you 5 minutes because we are running out of time. So I will give you 5 minute time and then you can brainstorm it quickly and then we can just see what is the thing that you come up with. So I will set 5 minute time now. Ima, your question is that, is it right that the early indicator is external, but then the implication is internal? You can see it that way, but to be honest, the implication can be both. Because, for example, externally, maybe because of the rising in the IT industry, it makes you to have opportunity to have a company doing GTA because they want to have interns. So it depends. So it's really about like how do you foresee that based on the factor that's happening, what would be the implication towards internal and external factor. Same with the early indicator as well. You can also observe how your member changing their mindset. For example, if your member is showing the sign that they want to find part-time job, then it could be an indicator on what is your member retention. So it's really up to you to define.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. So I will keep quiet now. Thank you. Okay. So people, the time is up. So can you hear me? So because we are running out of time, so I think that will be all with this activity for the scenario. Amazing. So what we're gonna do now is that I will go to one group. Which group you want me to give feedback? You can tell your group which group you're interested. MCP, shout your name.
Group four.
Okay, I will choose group 4 because group 1 is like, Connie, you are a passive, not a delegate. But thanks for the excitement. So I will click on the site. So just keep. Okay, cool. So if you can see, is group 4 has gg.com, which is very interesting name. So let's look into it. Extending of the quarantine and movement restriction, daily cases as is 100. Cannot go and do not need to see the needs. Still very prudent. Okay, touch point. It's a bit similar to mine. So high number of sign up, yes, true, that this is true. Especially one of the things that you can notice is also how is the marketing tendency as well. Like, do you see any digital marketing data? What does that mean? I don't know. Okay, ask me a more specific question, Connie. So if you can see that, like, if your high number of sign up, there could be a good data. And also another thing that you can also observe your channel traffic as well. It could also let you understand that, oh, people actually are looking at a lot of travel or like kind of exchange traffic. Cool. So beside, okay, next number of exchange. Okay, cool. So this is a pretty similar to the one that I have. So not bad. So let's see group 2, okay? Okay, group 2 still need a bit more time. But then you see the implication is final year students who are participate Isaac will prioritize career more over Isaac. So it will more open going for exchange to great time to do ISP campaign. Cool. So it's like people have but then this is low willingness to buy, right? Okay, anyway, so which means that people are high willingness and then low control. Cool. This could be one opportunity that you can observe that people want to prioritize their career more. So it could be a possibility to happen. Okay. And then for, let's see, group 5. Yeah, okay, there could be a possibility that MC will quit because of shortage of salary. So yeah, so this is something that you really need to figure out how you're gonna solve it. And imagine your MC tell you that, you'll be a bit awkward. You'll be like, are you trying to tell me something indirectly? But anyway, yeah, I think that this could be the like MC retention would be an issue. And then for group 1, yes, okay, similar. Okay, so group 1 something is like university timeline. Okay, university are still closed. It could be a very good timeline for you. University timeline is something that it affects you a lot. Partner office allow work from home for entire year. Okay, yeah, economy reopens, or cool, and or job opportunity rate, is it increase or dropping? So these are the indicators that you can look into based on the scenario they come up with. Cool. So these are the early indicator, or literally early indicator. Your team already tells you indirectly that they want to quit. Okay, don't laugh at this situation because it's not nice to happen, right? So so that's all with this activity for the scenario. You can read so, and then the last step will be prioritizing your scenario. So basically, based on the early indicator that you set, based on the data that you can look on it, it's important for you to identify on which are the scenario that you're most probably to happen. It can be like, I think scenario C is likely to happen, but then if C didn't happen, or after C happened, it will change to D. It could be. So it really depends on how your planning output would be. So don't be very fixed that you have to have an amazing or perfect scenario, because the thing is that when we mention about uncertainty, we already do not know what will happen. So what you need is to have a very good team structure or routine that allow you to revise the scenario in a consistent manner, so that you always keep alert on what is the thing that happen, that is going to happen. So you should prioritize on the scenario, maybe 1 or 2 scenario that you think that is most likely to happen, and then you plan strategy for that. So once you plan that, everything that's all with the scenario. So right now we're gonna move on to the recovery planning. Okay. So for the recovery planning, so right now there will be a lot more about explanation, because we don't have time for activity. And then if you need any help, we will have our service for you. So for each scenario, you will face 2 situations. Because like I mentioned, you will mention that when is the date that you can start doing exchange again. which means that before that date, you cannot do exchange. So you have a scenario where you cannot do exchange, and you have a scenario where you can do, sorry, you have a situation in each scenario that you cannot do exchange and you can do exchange. Is that clear? Like, is it, I just want to check on, is it clear so far for you to understand this statement? Because this is really important. It will affect your plan. All right. And then also you will have a transition period where you are transitioned from the period where you cannot do exchange to the period that you can do exchange, which means that you won't be suddenly December cannot do exchange and then suddenly January you do exchange as in like starting approval. No, right? It won't happen. You need to have a preparation for your membership, building them, build up your marketing campaign. So these are the period of time is also important. So when you come up with a strategy, there are 4 types of strategy. The first 2 types of strategy called resize and reposition. These are the 2 strategies that is perfect for you when you cannot do exchange. Why? It's focusing on cutting costs and it's focusing on coming out with a new revenue stream. What does it mean? First is resizing. You need to survive. So you resize your organization to be smaller. What it means is that you're cutting down the cost that is going to happen, like your fixed costs, and also you minimize the possibility of money going out, which means that you probably delay certain money, even though in longer term you have to pay more. But right now you're trying to minimize every expenses that you're going to spend right now. So this is the time of the strategy for you to think on how can you save money by cutting costs. Second thing is that based on the qualitative analysis output that you come out with, so you will know what are the needs and the opportunity for your partner, membership, and also customer. From there, you identify on what are the new revenue stream approach that you can do to actually get money or generate new sales or money revenue from your member, customer, and partner. So this is the thing that actually you look into the new demand and needs and then come up with a strategy so that you can actually have money without a change, because this will be the period of time where these 2 strategies you need to implement because you cannot do a change. And then there are another 2 strategy that happen is because you are going to do a change and you can do a change. So before you can do a change, imagine that right now you have a strategy for all your members to do sales or to do certain strategy that does not directly link to approval, but maybe the strategy it will be designed for you to nurture them longer term and then they become your partner. But then you still need to have a period of time where you're building their capacity to do operation. You are making sure that your product quality is good. So by the time when you can do a change, you make sure that your member is kept competence enough. You have enough. You have a good marketing platform or marketing brand, or you also have a very good product sustainability strategy, like your financial pricing all makes sense, so that you can actually earn money and the quality of your project is good, so that you can actually perform better even than your pre-COVID time, because you are learning from the mistake from the past. So strengthen subsystem is basically coming out with a strategy that making your organization stronger in terms of foundations. And then for operation strategy is basically the customer flow. So for customer flow strategy, like attraction, consideration, pre-attractions, all these things. So basically it's a stage, it's a good old Isaac strategy, like marketing campaign, IR, partnership, and all these things. So you also need to prepare that so that when you can do a change, you have already a set of strategy that you can just implement directly. So these are the 4 types of strategy. And you should have these 4 types of strategy in each scenario. Why? It's because in each scenario, you have a stage where you cannot do a change, you can do a change, and you are preparing to do a change. So you should have each scenario to have a set of strategy that actually allows you to be ready for different kind of thing. And you will probably think that, oh my God, it's a lot, man. Yeah, it's going to be a lot. Because if you want to be ready, you're going to prepare a lot. So this is something for you to take notes. If you really find it hard to have 4 scenarios, at least have 3, okay? Maximum, don't have more than 5 scenarios because it's too much. So optimum is to have 4 scenarios. So in this case, when you do planning, what you realize is that somehow maybe your strategy to strengthen the subsystem may not change so much across the scenario, because maybe you need to build the same capacity or you need to build the same financial pricing, all these things. So what you can notice that maybe the operation strategy here, these 2 strategies, maybe the changes of the strategy is not that much, but you probably have more changes in terms of the timeline of implementation. The one that will change a bit more is more here, like what kind of cost that you want to cut. Like can do, maybe this is like in the next 3 months you cannot do a change. This is next 6 months you cannot do a change. What else you need to cut, or what are the strategy you need to plan so that you can actually have money to sustain for next 6 months. So these are the questions you need to ask. And also it could be, sometimes the strategy could be sound similar, for example, membership capacity, but it's important for you to mention what are the detailed differences of the capacity you're going to build in your membership. So that's all with that. So these are the objective. If you forget, you're like, oh my gosh, Charmaine, I'm really panicking. Oh my gosh, save me. So I have a one pager for you to like figure things out. So objective is cannot do action is cost cutting, find a new revenue stream, preparing is a subsystem, so everything linked. And then we have something called recurring metric. Do you remember that in Ella's session she said about recurring metrics? If you remember, please say yes.
Yes.
The drum.
Yes.
Okay. Exactly. So whatever you're gonna implement, these are the recurring metrics that it can link to your strategy. It makes sense, okay? Let me tell you how it makes sense. Because the thing is that we are not gonna be like, this is how we can make sure that globally, all network, we are all fixing on the recurring on the same thing. So if you are resizing, you are cutting costs, and you are finding a new revenue stream, which means that your metric should be something like you have profit from engagement product because you are getting profit through EWA. Or you're making sure that you're cutting costs so that you have enough money of financial reserve. So this KPI, or you are strengthening your subsystem, which means that you're working on product pricing changes so that when you can do operation, your money, your IGV product is actually not making losses, or your OGV product is actually making more revenue. That makes more sense. And also you are making sure that your member are retaining, or you're starting to prepare for global projects, and also the change management for the GTGE business model, things like that. And then after that, for this one is basically, okay, how many realization? So what happened is that when you have strategy, you can have other KPI, but make sure that you have certain KPI that's linked to recurring metrics so that as AI office, we were able to governance based on all the KPI that you're working on, which are the KPI that everybody is working on together, so that we can monitoring and then we can observe what are the initiatives that you are doing. So it's a little bit of bottom-up approach at the same time with the top-down approach. You know what I mean? Like we are trying to find a balance point. So with that is that it will link to ISO 2025, and this is how we can make sure that we are all working together towards the common aspect. And you will ask, will we have strategy or not? Yes, we have. So based on this KPI of the recurring metrics, we have some initiative from AI. But then this is something that for you to choose. So basically, one thing is that you don't have to implement everything. You pick the one that fits your context the most. You pick the metrics that fit to your strategy the most, or the objective of the strategy, and you pick the strategy, the initiative here that makes more sense for you. So it's all up to your entity context. And what is our support? We will recommend the strategy that fits your context the better in your diagnosis tool, which is the tool that you see just now. And also we're going to have one meeting with you before your MC planning. We are also going to support you in virtual MC support, but then we haven't identified which entity that we will focus on, because there are a lot of entities and we don't have the possibility to do all at the same time. Okay, so that's one thing for you to take note on. So I will explain about the planning tool. So because I don't have a lot of time and I'm exceeding the time again, which is rude, don't kill me, I'm really sorry. I love you, but not in other way. So I will give you an example of my scenario. So you can see that. Okay, Gina, stop it with the Okay, so if you go to the tab called example scenario B to recovery, so imagine that I give you an example. So right now it's called baby step recovery. So resizing is about cutting costs, right? So the objective is that objective of this strategy is to make sure that I can increase my entity liquidity, which means that I can increase the cash in my entity. What would be the KPI? I want to make sure that by the end of this scenario, or by a certain time range, I will have 6 months reserve before I can start doing a change. And also I can reduce 3,000 fixed costs. So it's something that you can look into it. And after that strategy will be like, I want to revise a payment plan for my account receivable, which means that my LC that owe me money and the external partner that owe me money, I want to come up with a planning payment plan to allow them to pay me faster so that I have cash, because cash is the king right now. And then after that, optimize fixed variable costs. For example, maybe now I will cut down to have house or only office, things like that, so that I don't have to pay both at the same time. So this could be something that you can actually look into. And then you need to make sure that you have a responsible and a synergy person, and also a deadline. So you may ask questions, for example, what should be the time range of this strategy? When should I measure that the task, the goal can be achieved? It's definitely up to you. And this is the minimal framework. If you are like, Xiaomei, I want more. I want to have something called financial resources that need to be spent for this strategy. I want something that is like checklist that is done or not done. I want a Gantt chart. You know what? You can do it yourself. I'm not going to give it to you. Just customize whatever thing that fits to your context. Because it's your plan. So if you have all these minimum thing like KPI, objective, strategy, activity, it's good to go. And also responsible, synergy, and deadline is good to go. The rest, if you want, feel free to, dream your best tracker. If you are some kind of a tracker freak that you really like to design tracker, like this is the time for you to shine. Or you have an MCVP that really like to do that, you can empower them. So basically, this is the overall planning framework. If you want to know more, I have a video that I recorded already. I have a material that you can just read it yourself. And this will be the guiding question. If you are like lost, oh my gosh, Charmaine, I do not know what to do. Okay, there are some guiding questions. Then you can just read it and then it can guide you. And this will be the example that I just showed you. So in the end, if you have more than one strategy, you want to like, oh my gosh, my team is crazy. They give me 2,000 strategy and I do not know how to differentiate or consolidate, or all the strategies sound the same. For example, they give you a strategy called membership capacity building. Every year, people will have a strategy called capacity building. And then every year, we do not know what we are achieving. So it's important for you to define on if all the scenario you have the same strategy name, you ask yourself, is there any differences across this strategy? For example, member capacity building. Maybe in scenario A is focusing more on sales. Scenario B is focusing more on customer retention kind of skill set. I do not know, for example. So in this case, you need to make sure that you emphasis on the differences of your strategy. If it's together are similar, then you consolidate them. Like, okay, then this will be the same strategy that can apply to all the scenario. And then also, and also if you have more than one strategy, you can prioritize them. So if you want to how to prioritize them, there are these recommendation in the guidebook that can teach you 3 layers of prioritization, which means that you can see effort versus impact, how much effort that you put for this strategy, does it give you the impact that you want, and also how much money it costs for the strategy, and lastly, it's called scenario testing. For the last one, it's very interesting. What we're going to do is that you can put one strategy from maybe you have a recovery plan for scenario 1, and then you test for scenario 1, 2, 3, 4 to see does it actually benefit for you or not. And then maybe you realize that there will be a possibility of one strategy that can be benefit to multiple scenarios. And that strategy is a key strategy because that strategy allows you that when you implement, you have more control over it. And also no matter how the scenario change, you can still benefit from the strategy that you're implementing it in different scenarios. So that's a bit of quick update for you. If you want to know more, check the guidebook. And then that's all with that. So before I go for the last few things that I want to brief, I just want to know, any one of you want to share how was this process going on for you? Like what is the learning process and what is the thing in your mind? And how can you actually prepare your team better? Because you probably will go through some of the emotion that your team will go through. And you also have a lot of questions on how to define things. So that's why these activities is important. So I want to know, any one of you want to share?
I can share.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess it's, the whole thing, it brings a lot of clarity, but also it takes a lot of juice from my brain. So I guess that is something that I need to go again through all of it and then simplify it for the MC team because it will be very difficult and also, have a agenda in terms of how to plan it. And I guess what can be done more better is talk to Isaru after doing all that so that he can give a feedback in terms of understanding that if it can be effective or not, because it's complicated and it has a lot of steps and everything to go in, and then there's a lot of things to fulfill. It's just that the last year also we had something like that, and then at a given point of time the MC got a little bit irritated and everything was not going that way it's supposed to go that way, but people don't understand sometimes the logic behind that or the just cause behind that. So I guess that needs to be made clear to people in terms of the purpose, and then we can go ahead. So but for sure I need to check it again. It's
cool. Thank you, Karen, for sharing. So I see some of you mentioned about, you're going to have virtual planning. So definitely just be prepared for the worst. You're going to have virtual planning, I think, most likely. If you don't have, good for you. Like, I know that there are some entity, for example, like as in Taiwan, I think they can actually gather with one another. So it couldn't be much of the problem. But the rest of the thing, like, for example, you are saying that there's a lot you need to digest. Yes. The reason why I'm giving you this process is that I could have just simply give you a framework and to brief you through, but I want you to go through this process because you need to know that these are the exactly feeling they will go through. They will think that it's overwhelming. They will think that it's very stressful and there's very little time and you are keep pushing in them. At the same time, everything they come up with, they don't think that they understand the external factor enough. And as MCP, it's important for you to talk through this process. And you actually have 100% control over how the MCP MC planning experience will look like. So I hope that this simulation can give you the worst of the planning, because I don't think this simulation was supposed to give you like the best of it. It's supposed to give you the worst of it so that you can actually prepare for the worst. So I think that but then I think that to recap again, the output of this planning is to make sure that before you start planning, have a proper analysis, go through your qualitative analysis output and diagnosis tool. That's why it's important to make sure that your qualitative analysis output is done right. If it's really lousy, you wouldn't have a good insight. You probably don't even know what your partner is thinking. So make sure that you understand now why we need to understand this question so that you can build a scenario that actually work for your recovery plan. And then also plan 4 to 5 scenarios. If you cannot, have 3 at least. And then also plan recovery plan to make sure that you have 4 types of strategy in it, and make sure that you have a scenario for each recovery plan. So which means that your MC planning day and time should be longer. And then also make sure that your recovery strategy KPI aligned to some recovery metrics. So that's all with this, and these are all the guidelines. What I really want you to do is that in this session, I did not cover a lot of details of the information, but I really want you to go through this guideline because it has all the information step by step and details of everything. So it also has some external resources that I put there, like McKinsey. It actually have a scenario for McKinsey in terms of based on economic as also based on customer, something like that. So you can really read that. You don't run out of resources. And then in the end, there will be output submission. So by the 28th of June is the deadline for you to submit your MC plan. And then also duplicate MC planning 2021 planning output template in here. So what you need is that what Aro will give you back is the slide that you're going to present to us. And then we will give you back for that. But if you want to give us your spreadsheet, it will be good so that we can check on the top process. And then also we will collect goal for you. And we will collect 2 scenario goal because I do not know if 1 scenario, 2 scenario. Ayo will tell you later, okay? I'm not sure that on that. So in the end, all in all, what is the most important thing for you to remember as MCP? Output is the main thing. We don't care if you follow the process or not. Obviously, I don't care. If you think that the process that Xiaomei come out with is not good enough, change it. You have the authority to change it. What you need to care is that you have an output of a scenario and you have a recovery plan and you have the 4 strategy in each recovery plan and you have recovery plan for each scenario. That's the main thing, okay? Second thing is that you can customize the planning process. If you think that the analysis that AI gives is not enough, the recovery plan is not enough, or goal setting is not enough, make it better. Or you think that it's too much, prioritize to fit your entity. And then the third thing is that you must follow MC planning flow, which means that you must do analysis first, then recovery plan, then goal setting, then only implementation practice. Don't do goal setting before you're coming out with a recovery plan, because what goal you're going to set? You don't even know the scenario. You don't even know when can you do a change. You're going to set a goal and then in the end, you don't use the goal. So make sure that you know the scenario, how much change you need to achieve so that you can actually have the financial resources so that you have a clear product goal and BD goal that can support you that with the duration on how long you cannot do a change and how long you can start doing a change. And lastly is that all in all, be clear on your process and output. As MCP, I think there's something we forget is that why I do my session like this and why we are taking so much time that probably you're going to kill me because you have lesser break right now is that because when I was at MCP, I create my own agenda. I create my own tool. And then after that, we realized that not all the MCP have this knowledge. What we did is that we come up with a standardized agenda. We come up with a standardized tool. What happened is that MCP stopped thinking for their own entity. They take whatever it is and then they just do it blindly, or they don't think, do it enough. And then after that, they say the tool is not good enough. AI gives too many information. So now we are trying to find a balance point. You get to decide. We care about your output, but you have full control. We're not going to give you agenda. You plan your own agenda. We're going to give you a lot of resources. We're going to give you a lot of support, but you are the one who need to be clear. You are the one who hold 100% responsibility of your MC planning. Your MC planning experience is good or not, your output is good or not, it's up to you, okay? And then, of course, we're not going to be like, do it yourself. We're going to support you because one thing is that you also pay us, right? I mean, like you don't have money or everything. You still pay for AI and RO. Of course, we need to do our job. So you can refer to the diagnosis tool and our recommendations. Basically, that's the resources that we give it to you. And then also the ED coach will actually have one final recommendation for you to go through like MC planning agenda and all these things before you start your MC planning. So you can actually get feedback from us. And then also RO will give feedback to your MC plan output, but you need to submit your plan on time because if you did not submit on time because the timeline is packed, we will not give you feedback if you don't submit your plan on time. And the deadline is 28th of June. And then also, last one, the most interesting is that we will have capacity building for your MCVPs. So which means that in OP Summit, we will teach them about MC planning, your TM Summit and Finance Summit, we will teach them about MC planning. So you will actually have an easier environment to onboard them because they actually already kind of know what you're talking about. They will go through the same process like you, but then after that, when you meet each other, you'll be like, oh my God, you actually understand it? You're like, yeah. So it makes sure that your MCVP actually attending the touch point. And then the last thing is that, oh, actually, this is the last one. So that's all for this space. If you have any question, obviously you can approach us. Right now, all the regional managers are already aware and we are here to support you. Don't be afraid to ask questions and see you soon. So that's all. Thank you so much for your time. And Isuru gonna update you about the agenda changes. So Isuru?
Yeah, hi guys. So I'm gonna quickly share with the agenda because the planning session is important. We added more time to the planning session, and I really believe this is the most important part of the MPC to summit. So how's the agenda look like right now is we are here. So we are 4:13. We're actually 15 minutes late from this one as well. So our next session is start at 4:30. You have 15 minutes break. Take the break. I want to put this break because I want you guys to go out, stand up and go out and take breath and come back. And then we have organized OD session by Tony at 4:30. And then we have a break of 1 hour. There's a break of 1 hour between this. Why? Again, for the same reason, for you to take a mental break out of this. And then planning session 2, this one is 2 hours again. Added more 30 minutes for this session as well. Basically, this is the core of the MCV Summit, guys. Please pay attention for this one and remove the dinner. And this break you can use to cook something or get some food, and maybe you can eat during the session going on. And we remove the session of organization culture. This one will be shifted to the MCP call. We will be delivering this session in there, and then we'll have checkout at the same time. Yes, so this is the updated agenda. Hope you guys are clear. And yeah, I want you guys to go and take the break as soon as possible. Yeah. Okay.
Isuru,
Yes.
can you make me the host?
Can.
No, can I?
You.
Oh, I
Wait, people, just for you to know that for the TM and OP Summit and Finance Summit and BD Summit, it's all at the same date. So it's 10 to 14. So all your MC, just plan the agenda for them to be 100% present for the summit. And then after that, once summit ends, you straight away start your MC planning. Is that clear? Preparation and MC planning. So everything will happen together. Yeah, it will be a big thing happening. Everybody's busy. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye, people. Have a great rest.
Shomi, can you make me host? You are the host right now.
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Let me find me the cutie.
Hi.
Cutie? Did you say cutie?
That's a right name to describe about me.
Whoever are recording, you can end the recording already.
Oh,
thank you.